It was a gray and brooding April morning when Dr. John Watson was summoned to Baker Street, the letter arriving with the urgency of a man pursued. Holmes, pale and lean, paced his sitting room like a caged predator, his usual detachment sharpened into something fierce and electric. The great detective was not merely solving a case, he was in the clutches of war. For months, Holmes had been unraveling the threads of a vast criminal network, one that had eluded justice for years. At its core was a man Holmes described in hushed reverence and loathing, a mathematical genius turned dark intellect, Professor James Moriarty. Holmes had cornered beasts before, but Moriarty was a spider at the center of a web spun across London, invisible and deadly. Holmes explained to Watson that the net was closing. He had laid the final trap, but Moriarty, too brilliant to be caught unaware, now hunted him in return. Holmes was no longer the predator alone. He had become the prey. To protect Watson from the imminent danger, Holmes urged him to return home. But Watson, loyal beyond measure, refused. Together they fled London in secret, pursued not by mere thugs but by assassins cloaked in the shadows of empire. They crossed the Channel to France, wound through the Alps, and found brief refuge in Switzerland, where nature's vastness offered a stage for the drama to reach its height. It was there, in the village of Meiringen, nestled beneath the thunder of the Reichenbach Falls, that Holmes sensed the end drawing near. The falls themselves were magnificent, thunderous cascades crashing down with the force of time and fate. Holmes knew Moriarty would come. There would be no retreat, no courtroom victory. This was to be their reckoning. In a final act of cunning, Holmes deceived Watson with a false telegram, luring him away under the pretense of tending to a sick Englishwoman. While Watson was gone, Moriarty arrived. Two minds of equal brilliance met on the cliffside, beside the roaring abyss. There were no witnesses to their battle, only the impressions of their footprints near the edge, and the mangled scrap of a final letter Holmes left behind. In it, he bid farewell to Watson, calmly stating that he had no choice but to face Moriarty, alone. He expected they would both perish, and he accepted this outcome with the same cold logic that had always guided him. Watson returned too late, finding only the letter and the terrifying spray of water below. The footprints led to the edge, and no further. The world mourned Sherlock Holmes. Newspapers ran black borders, clubs held moments of silence, and London, its darker corners safer now, if only briefly, felt the void of a man who had given his mind and life to order and justice. But that was not the end. Years later, Watson would learn the truth. Holmes had survived. Knowing Moriarty's agents would never stop hunting him, Holmes faked his death at the falls. He clung to the cliffside until the danger had passed, and then vanished into the world, watching from the shadows as Moriarty's empire crumbled in his absence. When Holmes finally returned in The Adventure of the Empty House, it was not merely a resurrection. It was a warning. The criminal world would always rise again, and as long as it did, so would he.